The night sky above Puerto Rico was clear, stars twinkling like distant diamonds against the black canvas of space. Dr. Alexandra Carter sat alone in the control room of the Arecibo Observatory, her eyes fixed on the monitor displaying wavelength, patterns. After 15 years working for SETI, she had grown accustomed to the disappointment of false alarms and random space noise. The coffee beside her had gone cold hours ago. The clock read 3:17 a.m. Most of her colleagues had left, but Alexandra always stayed late. She believed that if humans were ever going to make contact with intelligent life, it would happen during those quiet hours when most people were asleep. Computer beeped. Alexandra straightened in her chair, squinting at the new pattern appearing on her screen. At first, she thought it was another random burst of cosmic radiation, but as the signal continued, a rhythmic pattern emerged. Too regular, to be natural. Her heart raced as she began recording the data. The signal repeated every 73 seconds with perfect precision. She reached for the phone to call her colleague. "Eric, it's Alex. I need you at the observatory right now." Dr. Eric Daniels arrived 30 minutes later, still wearing his pajama pants, under his hastily buttoned coat. His eyes widened as he looked at the signal pattern. "How long has it been transmitting?" he asked, pulling up a chair next to Alexandra. "Almost 2 hours now. And look at this structure, it's definitely not random." Eric nodded, his expression serious. "We need to verify this isn't terrestrial interference before we notify anyone." They spent the next hours running every test they could think of. They confirmed the signal was coming from the direction of Proxima Centauri, the closest star system to Earth. By noon, they were certain. They had received an artificial signal from another world. Within days, the United Nations Space Agency assembled an emergency team of linguists, mathematicians, and astronomers to decode the message. Alexandra and Eric joined them at the UNSA headquarters in Geneva. Dr. Sofia Rivera, the lead linguist, explained their progress to the gathered scientists. The first part of the message contains mathematical sequences, prime numbers, the value of pi, basic equations. It's a foundation for communication. A universal language, Alexandra said. They're establishing that we both understand math before moving to more complex ideas. For weeks, they worked around the clock. Governments kept the signal secret from the public to prevent panic, but rumors spread online. People looked at the sky differently, wondering what might be out there. The breakthrough came on a rainy Tuesday. The team had decoded enough of the message to understand its nature. Alexandra's hands trembled as she read the translation displayed on the main screen. "This is a warning," she said, her voice barely audible. The message described a species that called themselves the Harvesters. They traveled from system to system, taking resources from planets. They didn't seek peace or trade. They took what they wanted and left ruined worlds behind. According to the message, the Harvesters had detected Earth's radio signals and identified humans as a Level 2 civilization, advanced enough to be useful, but not advanced enough to properly defend themselves. Earth was marked for harvest within 6 months. "There's more," Eric said, pointing to new data streaming in. "They're sending visuals now." The screens filled with images that made the room fall silent. They saw cities unlike anything on Earth being systematically destroyed. Strange ships descended from the skies, landing in formation. Creatures moved with mechanical precision, gathering resources and capturing the native population of the alien world. The most disturbing images showed harvesting facilities. The aliens didn't just take minerals and water, they processed the inhabitants of the worlds they conquered. Humans wouldn't just lose their planet, they would become resources themselves. General Saksiu, William Pearson of the United States Space Force, reviewed the evidence with a grim expression. "How certain are you about this translation?" "The mathematical foundation is solid," Alexandra replied. "We've verified it through 3 different methods. This isn't a misunderstanding." "And the source? Could this be some kind of hoax?" Eric shook his head. "The signal is definitely coming from Proxima Centauri, and the technology needed to send this kind of focused transmission over that distance is beyond anything we currently possess." The general nodded slowly. Then we have to assume this is real. I'll brief the Security Council today. Within a week, world leaders were shown the evidence. For perhaps the first time in human history, political differences faded in the face of extinction. A global state of emergency was declared, though the public was told only that an astronomical event required unprecedented cooperation. Alexandra watched from her apartment as news channels reported on the sudden increase in military spending and the formation of the Earth Defense Initiative. The truth would come out soon. People deserved to know what was coming. Her phone rang. It was Eric. "They've sent something new," he said urgently. "You need to see this." Back at the UNSA headquarters, Alexandra joined the team as they received the latest transmission. This one showed clear footage of Earth. Recent images taken from space showing major cities, military installations, and population centers. "They've been watching us," Sophia whispered, "studying our weaknesses." The transmission ended with a countdown, 180 days until arrival. General Pearson entered the room, accompanied by officials from a dozen countries. "The Security Council has made its decision. We're going public with this tomorrow. The world needs to prepare." That night, Alexandra stood on her balcony looking at the stars. Somewhere out there, an enemy was coming that saw humans as nothing more than resources to be used and discarded. She wondered how people would react to the news. Would there be panic, denial, or would humanity come together like never before? Her phone buzzed with a message from the UNSA. "Report to Geneva HQ, Priority Alpha. Captain Olivia Martinez of Orbital Defense requesting your expertise." Alexandra took one last look at the peaceful sky. Soon the entire world would know what was coming. The night seemed darker somehow, the stars colder and more distant. Tomorrow everything would change. The countdown had begun. She packed a small bag, knowing she might not return home for a long time. As she left her apartment, Alexandra wondered what kind of world it would be in 180 days, if there would be a world at all. Captain Olivia Martinez stood on the observation deck of the Aegis, Earth's newest orbital defense platform. Through the reinforced glass, she could see the blue curve of Earth below and the endless black of space above. Somewhere out there, an enemy was coming. 3 weeks had passed since the world leaders had told everyone about the alien threat. The first days had been chaos. Some people didn't believe it. Others panicked and tried to build shelters or stockpile food. Many just kept working, trying to pretend nothing had changed. But everything had changed. Countries that used to fight each other were now working together. Scientists shared secrets they had kept for decades. Factories that once made cars now built parts for space weapons. The whole planet was preparing for war. "Captain, you're needed in command," said a voice over the station speakers. Olivia took one last look at Earth and headed to the command center. The Aegis was still being built, with workers and engineers floating in zero gravity, connecting wires and welding metal plates. It would be the first line of defense when the harvesters arrived. In the command center, screens showed the progress of defense projects around the world. Lieutenant Ryan Collins, a young officer with a talent for spotting patterns, was studying the alien data that had been sent in the warning message. "Captain," he said, looking up from his screen, "I think I found something important in the tactical data." Olivia moved closer. "What is it?" "The harvesters always attack in the same pattern. They send scouts first, then target communication centers, then power grids. But look here." He pointed to a section of the alien data. "Their ships always approach from the same angle relative to the planet's magnetic field. I think their navigation systems might depend on it." Olivia studied the information. "If you're right, we could predict exactly where they'll appear." "And where they'll be most vulnerable," Ryan added. Olivia nodded. "Send this to Earth Defense Command right away. This could give us an edge." Meanwhile, in a research facility deep under the Rocky Mountains, Kevin Walsh was working on a problem that had haunted him for years. The former military engineer had been pulled from retirement when the alien warning came. His shield technology, which had been considered too expensive and impractical before, was now humanity's best hope. The power consumption is still too high, he told Dr. Linda Wright, a physicist who had joined his team. We can't generate enough energy to cover more than a few key locations. Linda, who had been studying the alien technology shown in the broadcasts, had an idea. What if we don't try to shield everything? What if we focus on creating small mobile shield generators that can protect our fighters and key personnel? Kevin considered this. Like armor instead of a fortress wall. That might work. They began designing a new version of the shield. One that could be carried by soldiers or mounted on vehicles and aircraft. If they couldn't protect the whole planet, they would protect the people fighting to save it. In Chicago, Steve Garcia watched the news with his wife and 2 children. Their basement was now a shelter, with food, water, and emergency supplies. Steve worked at a factory that had been converted to produce parts for the new defense systems. Do you think they'll really come, Dad? Asked his 10-year-old daughter. Steve didn't know what to say. How do you explain to a child that monsters from space might destroy their world? I don't know, sweetie, but if they do, we'll be ready for them. That night, after the children were asleep, Steve and his wife Diane talked in low voices. The military is recruiting, he said. They need people who know how to work with the new equipment. Diane gripped his hand. You're thinking of volunteering? Steve nodded. Someone has to fight. I want our kids to have a future. She didn't argue. They both knew the stakes were too high to stay on the sidelines. Back at the UNSA headquarters in Geneva, Alexandra Carter and Eric Daniels continued studying the alien broadcast. The messages kept coming, showing more details about the harvesters and their previous conquests. Look at this, Alexandra said, pointing to new images on the screen. The harvesters aren't fully organic. They're part machine. The images showed beings with both biological and mechanical parts. They moved with precision that seemed both alive and robotic. They've evolved beyond their original form, Eric said. Or maybe they altered themselves on purpose. That might explain why they harvest other species, Alexandra suggested. They might use biological material to upgrade themselves. The thought made them both silent. The enemy they faced wasn't just technologically advanced. They were fundamentally different from humans with values and goals that might be impossible to understand. As the days passed, more people joined the global defense effort. Soldiers trained with new weapons. Scientists worked without rest. Civilians learned emergency protocols and built shelters. On the Aegis, Captain Martinez oversaw combat drills. The station was now fully operational, with weapons pointed outward, ready to defend Earth. Lieutenant Collins had refined his analysis of the harvester tactics, creating detailed predictions of where and how they would attack. Incoming transmission from Earth Defense Command, announced the communications officer. General Pearson's face appeared on the main screen. Captain Martinez, our long-range sensors have detected something approaching Jupiter's orbit. It's 3 weeks ahead of our projected timeline. Olivia felt her heart beat faster. The harvesters? Scout ships, we think. Small and fast. They'll reach Earth in approximately 48 hours. We're ready, sir, Olivia said, though she wondered if that was true. Could anyone truly be ready for what was coming? I'm sending Lieutenant Collins the coordinates. I want the Aegis to deploy your stealth vessel to gather intelligence. We need to know what we're facing before the main fleet arrives. Understood. We'll launch immediately. After the transmission ended, Olivia called for Lieutenant Collins and communications specialist Nicole Foster. You two will lead the reconnaissance mission, she told them. Take the Shadowcaster. Get close enough to observe their ships, but do not engage. We need information more than we need heroes right now. They nodded, understanding the importance of their mission. As they prepared to depart, Olivia looked again at Earth through the viewport. She had sworn to protect it, and now that promise would be tested like never before. The scouts are just the beginning, she said quietly. The real battle is still to come. The Shadowcaster moves silently through space, its dark hull designed to avoid detection. Inside, Lieutenant Ryan Collins and communications specialist Nicole Foster watched their screens carefully. They were now within visual range of the alien scout ships orbiting Jupiter. I've never seen anything like them, Ryan whispered. even though the aliens couldn't hear him. The scout ships looked partly alive, with smooth curves that reminded him of sea creatures from Earth's oceans. Nicole adjusted her equipment. I'm trying to intercept their communications. There's something, but it's not like any language I've heard. The 5 alien scout ships moved in perfect formation, scanning Jupiter and its moons. From their movements, Ryan could tell they were looking for resources. Just as the warning broadcast had said, they were mapping what they could take. They haven't spotted us yet, Ryan said. Let's get closer and gather more data. The Shadowcaster edged nearer to the alien vessels. Nicole suddenly straightened in her seat. I'm picking up clear signals now. The computer is beginning to translate, based on the patterns in the warning broadcast. Ryan moved to her station. What are they saying? Nicole listened through her headset, her expression growing concerned. They're surprised. They're reporting back to their main fleet that Earth has orbital defenses and technology more advanced than they expected. They thought we'd be easier targets, Ryan said. Nicole nodded. They're adjusting their attack plans and... She paused, listening intently. They've detected unusual energy readings from Earth's moon. They're concerned about our base there. Ryan checked their fuel and systems. We've got what we came for. We need to warn Captain Martinez about the moon base. As they turned the Shadowcaster around to head back to Earth, one of the scout ships changed direction, moving toward Jupiter's moon Europa. What are they doing? Nicole asked. Ryan watched the alien ship descend toward the icy moon's surface. Testing our resources. Europa has a lot of water under its ice. They're probably taking samples. At least it gives us time to get back to Earth. On Earth, news of the scout ships had spread quickly. In Chicago, Steve Garcia hugged his children before leaving for his first day of military training. All around the city, people were preparing for what might come. I'll be home as soon as I can, he promised his wife, Diane. Just be careful, she said, trying to stay strong. The kids and I will be fine. We've got the shelter ready like they showed on TV. Steve nodded. He had volunteered for the ground defense force, knowing that if the aliens landed, someone would have to fight them face to face. The thought terrified him, but he forced himself to look confident for his family. At the training center, hundreds of civilians like Steve were learning to use new weapons designed based on the alien information. The instructors were experienced soldiers, but even they seemed nervous about facing an enemy from another world. These pulse rifles were developed using what we learned from the broadcasts, explained their instructor, Sergeant Frank Miller. They should disrupt the electrical systems in harvester technology. At least that's what the scientists tell us. Steve listened carefully, remembering his family at home. He would learn everything he could to protect them. In space, Captain Olivia Martinez received the report from the Shadowcaster as soon as it returned to the Aegis. They're targeting the moon base first, she said to her officers. That gives us a chance to test our defenses before they reach Earth. Lieutenant Collins, good work on the reconnaissance mission. Ryan nodded, tired but proud. There's something else, Captain. Nicole intercepted communications suggesting the harvesters are worried about our level of preparation. They expected us to be more primitive. Then we'll have to exceed their expectations even more, Olivia said. All stations, prepare for potential engagement. The moon base needs to be ready. The lunar base had been built as a scientific outpost, but in the weeks since the warning broadcast, it had been converted into a military installation. 200 people lived there now, mostly scientists and soldiers. Dr. Linda Wright had moved her laboratory to the moon base, believing the lower gravity would help with her experiments on shield technology. She was working with Kevin Walsh to finish the first batch of personal shield generators when the alarm sounded. Harvester ships approaching, came the announcement over the speakers. All personnel to battle stations. Linda looked at Kevin, fear and determination in her eyes. Will the shields work? Kevin checked the final unit. Only one way to find out. They rushed to distribute the shield generators to the soldiers preparing to defend the base. Outside, through the thick windows, they could see 3 alien ships descending toward the lunar surface, their hulls glowing red in the airless environment. Captain Martinez watched from the Aegis as the battle began. The moon base's defenses fired first, energy beams reaching out toward the alien ships, One of the harvester vessels was hit directly and spun off course, crashing into the lunar surface in a shower of strange, glowing debris. "They're vulnerable," Olivia said, hope in her voice. "Their shields couldn't stop our weapons." But the other two ships quickly adjusted, their hulls shifting to adapt. They landed near the base and began deploying ground forces, strange, half-mechanical beings that moved across the lunar surface with alarming speed. "The moon base is reporting that the ground forces are approaching their perimeter," reported the communications officer. Olivia made a quick decision. "Deploy our fighters, give them air support." Earth's first combat with an alien species had begun. The fighters launched from the Aegis, streaking toward the moon in tight formation. They were the best pilots Earth had, flying ships designed with technology that didn't exist just months ago. At the moon base, soldiers equipped with Kevin's shield generators met the harvester troops at the outer doors. The personal shields flickered blue as alien weapons fired, but they held. The soldiers fought back, their pulse rifles sending harvester troops floating away in the low gravity, their mechanical systems failing. For a brief moment, it seemed humanity might win this first encounter. But then more harvester ships appeared. Larger than the scouts, they took positions around the moon, their weapons charging. "Captain," Ryan said urgently, "the Shadowcaster's data shows those are heavy assault ships. The moon base won't survive a direct attack from that many." Olivia faced the hardest decision of her career. "Order the moon base to evacuate. Get as many people out as possible before those ships open fire." The evacuation began immediately. Transport ships rushed from Earth to the moon, dodging alien fire to rescue the base personnel. Dr. Wright and Kevin Walsh supervised the loading of their research and equipment, knowing it was too valuable to lose. As the last transport prepared to leave, the harvester ships began their bombardment. The moon base, humanity's first outpost beyond Earth, crumbled under the assault. But most of the people escaped, bringing with them the knowledge gained from this first battle. They had bloodied the enemy's nose. They had shown the harvesters that humans would not be harvested easily. Back on the Aegis, Olivia watched the survivors arrive. "We lost the base, but we hurt them, and we learned from this fight." Ryan nodded. "They'll think twice before attacking Earth directly now." Olivia wasn't so sure. The main harvester fleet was still coming. This had been just the first test, a sample of what awaited them all. 2 weeks after the moon battle, the main harvester fleet arrived. They came from behind the sun, using its light to hide their approach until they were too close to miss. Earth's early warning systems detected them only hours before they reached orbit. Alexandra Carter stood at the window of the Geneva Command Center, watching the sky darken as hundreds of alien ships moved between Earth and the sun. It was midday, but shadows fell across the city as if during an eclipse. "Dr. Carter, we need you in the main control room," a young officer said, his voice shaking slightly. In the control room, screens showed the harvester ships spreading out around the planet. They were massive, much larger than the scout ships, with strange growths and protrusions that made them look partly alive. General Pearson addressed the room.
"The Aegis and our other orbital platforms are engaging the enemy, but there are too many of them. We expect ground forces within hours. All defense zones should activate immediately." Alexandra turned to Eric Daniels, who had been analyzing the
latest data from space. "What are they targeting first?" "Power stations, communication arrays, water treatment facilities," Eric said. "Exactly as the warning broadcast predicted. They're following the same pattern they've used on other worlds." On the Aegis, Captain Martinez coordinated Earth's orbital defenses. The station shook as harvester weapons hit their shields. Damage reports came in from all sections. "Shield generators at 60% and falling," reported an officer. "Hull, breach on level 3. Emergency teams responding." Olivia studied the tactical display. Earth's orbital defenses were fighting hard, but the alien ships kept coming. For every harvester vessel they destroyed, 3 more took its place. "Captain, we're getting reports of landing craft breaking through," Lieutenant Collins said. "They're touching down in major cities across the planet." Olivia made a difficult choice. "We need to evacuate non-essential personnel. The Aegis has to keep fighting as long as possible. but we can't risk everyone on board. And you, Captain? Ryan asked, knowing what her answer would be. I stay with the station. Get the evacuation shuttles ready. In Chicago, Steve Garcia and his unit faced the first wave of Harvester ground troops. The aliens moved with frightening speed, their bodies a disturbing mix of organic tissue and mechanical parts. They carried weapons that fired beams of energy that melted through concrete and metal. Remember your training, Sergeant Miller shouted, over the sound of battle. Aim for their central body mass. The pulse rifles disrupt their systems. Steve fired his weapon, hitting one of the aliens. Its movements became jerky before it collapsed, but there were so many of them, pouring out of their landing craft like insects from a disturbed nest. Fall back to position 2, the sergeant ordered. We need to draw them into the kill zone. Steve and his team retreated down the street. They had prepared this area with hidden weapons and traps based on what they had learned from the lunar battle. As the aliens followed, automatic turrets activated, firing pulse rounds from multiple directions. For a moment, it seemed to work. The harvesters fell by the dozens, but then they adapted, their bodies changing to resist the pulse weapons. The remaining aliens pushed forward again. In his underground laboratory beneath the Rocky Mountains, Kevin Walsh watched the battles unfolding around the world. After escaping the moon base, he and Dr. Wright had been working non-stop to improve their shield technology. The personal shields are working, Linda said, pointing to footage from Chicago where soldiers like Steve Garcia were protected from alien weapons. But we don't have enough of them, and the harvesters are adapting too quickly. Kevin nodded grimly. We need something that affects all of them at once. Something they can't adapt to. Linda had been studying the organic components of the alien technology recovered from the moon battle. Their neural network, she said suddenly. All their technology seems connected through some kind of collective consciousness. If we could disrupt that, Kevin looked at her, hope dawning on his face. A pulse on a global scale. They began working on a new device, something that could send a disruptive signal through the harvester network. But to be effective, it would need to be deployed at the source, the command ship controlling the fleet. Back in orbit, the Aegis was taking heavy damage. Life support systems were failing on multiple decks, and fires burned throughout the station. Captain Martinez ordered the last evacuation shuttles to launch. Lieutenant Collins, she called, I have a final mission for you. Ryan approached her on the damaged bridge. Captain, she handed him a data pad. Dr. Wright has developed a device that could disrupt the Harvester's control network. It needs to be deployed on their command ship. She looked him in the eyes. I'm ordering you to take Nicole Foster and a small team to deliver it. That's a suicide mission, Ryan said quietly. Maybe, but it might be our only chance. Olivia looked at the tactical display, where more Harvester ships were approaching. Earth. I'll create a diversion to give you an opening. Ryan understood what she meant. The Aegis. Olivia nodded. Once you're clear, I'm going to use what's left of our engines to ram their defensive line. It should create enough confusion for your team to slip through. Ryan wanted to argue to find another way, but he knew there wasn't time. It's been an honor serving with you, Captain. The honor was mine. Now go. Earth is counting on you. As Ryan gathered his team and prepared the Shadowcaster for the mission, Captain Martinez made her final preparations. She set the Aegis on a collision course with the largest concentration of Harvester ships, bypassing safety protocols to give the engines everything they had left. On Earth, the battles raged in cities around the world. In some places, humanity was holding its ground. In others, the Harvesters had established processing centers, strange organic-looking structures where they began extracting resources, including people. Alexandra Carter and Eric Daniels joined, the team monitoring Ryan's mission from the command center in Geneva. If this doesn't work, Alexandra said quietly, we need to consider the backup plan. Eric knew what she meant. Scientists had prepared nuclear options as a last resort, even knowing it would devastate the planet they were trying to save. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, he said. In orbit, Captain Martinez watched Ryan's team depart in the Shadowcaster. The small stealth ship slipped away from the Aegis, invisible to Harvester sensors. "Good luck," she whispered. Then she turned to the few crew members who had stayed with her. "It's been an honor. For Earth." She engaged the engines at full power. The damaged station accelerated toward the alien fleet, becoming a massive projectile. Harvester ships scattered, trying to avoid collision, but the Aegis was too large and moving too fast. The impact was tremendous. The Aegis tore through the alien defensive line, destroying several ships and damaging many more. In the chaos that followed, the Shadowcaster slipped through the gap, heading for the massive command ship at the center of the Harvester fleet. Captain Olivia Martinez's last act had given humanity a chance. Now everything depended on Lieutenant Ryan Collins and his team, carrying a device that might be Earth's last hope. The Shadowcaster moved silently through the debris field created by the Aegis's sacrifice. Lieutenant Ryan Collins piloted the small ship, while Nicole Foster monitored the enemy communications. 3 other crew members checked their weapons and the special device Dr. Wright had created. "The command ship is directly ahead," Ryan said quietly. "Their systems are still confused from Captain Martinez's attack. We have maybe 10 minutes before they notice us." Nicole listened to the alien transmissions. "They're trying to reorganize their fleet. The captain's sacrifice really hurt them." Ryan looked at the massive command ship growing larger in their view screen. It was unlike any of the other Harvester vessels, more organic, with pulsing veins of light running across its surface. It reminded him of a giant brain. "We'll dock at this access point," he said, pointing to a spot near what looked like a maintenance area. "According to the scans, it's less guarded." The Shadowcaster approached the alien flagship, using the chaos of battle as cover. They managed to attach to the hull without being detected. Using cutting tools, they created an entry point and slipped inside the Harvester ship. The interior was warm and humid, with walls that seemed to breathe. Tubes and cables ran everywhere, pulsing with strange fluids and energy. The team moved, carefully following the map they had created based on captured alien data. "This way," Ryan whispered, leading them deeper into the ship. The central hub should be 2 levels down. As they moved through the ship, they passed chambers that made them stop in horror. Inside transparent containers, humans floated in strange liquids, with tubes connected to their bodies. The Harvesters had already begun processing captives from Earth. "They're still alive," Nicole said, her voice shaking with anger. "They're keeping them alive while they extract what they want." Ryan forced himself to look away. "We're going to stop this, all of it." They continued through the ship, avoiding Harvester patrols when possible, and using their pulse weapons when necessary. The aliens fell silently, their systems disrupted by the weapons designed from the information in the warning broadcast. Finally, they reached a massive chamber at the center of the ship. Inside was a structure that pulsed with energy, a massive, organic computer that controlled the entire Harvester fleet. "That's it," Ryan said. "That's their network hub. Plant the device there." As they approached the central structure, alarms began to sound throughout the ship. The Harvesters had discovered them. "Hurry," Ryan ordered, as 2 of his team members began attaching Dr. Wright's device to the pulsing hub. "Nicole, how long? Until it's ready?" Nicole checked the device. 2 minutes to charge, then we can activate it remotely." "We don't have 2 minutes," Ryan said as the doors to the chamber slid open and Harvester troops poured in. The team took defensive positions, firing their pulse weapons at the approaching aliens. For each Harvester they disabled, 2 more appeared. They were running out of time. One of the team members fell, hit by an alien weapon. Then another. Soon, only Ryan and Nicole remained, still defending the device as it charged. "It's ready," Nicole shouted over the sound of battle. Ryan nodded. "Activate it and let's go." Nicole pressed the activation sequence. The device began to emit a soft humming sound that grew louder, vibrating the air around them. The Harvesters nearest to them suddenly froze, their movements becoming erratic. "It's working," Ryan said. "Let's get out of here." They retreated toward the door they had come through, but more Harvesters blocked their path. They were trapped. Need another way out, Nicole said. Ryan spotted an access tunnel on the far side of the chamber. There, they fought their way across the room as the device's hum grew louder. All around them, harvesters were collapsing, the neural disruption spreading through their networked systems. On Earth, the effect was immediate. In Chicago, Steve Garcia watched in amazement as the alien troops suddenly stopped moving. Some fell to the ground while others simply stood frozen in place. "What's happening?" asked one of his fellow soldiers. Steve didn't know, but he seized the opportunity. "Keep fighting while they're down." All across the planet, the same scene repeated. Harvester forces faltered and failed as their connection to the command ship was disrupted. Human fighters pushed forward, reclaiming ground they had lost. In the Geneva Command Center, Alexandra Carter watched the tactical displays with growing hope. "Something's happening to their network," she told Eric Daniels. "All their forces are losing coordination." Eric studied the data coming from space. "It's Collins. He must have deployed the device." In orbit, harvester ships began drifting, their systems failing. Some crashed into each other while others simply went dark. The massive invasion force that had seemed unstoppable was now in chaos. Back on the command ship, Ryan and Nicole reached the access tunnel just as the device reached full power. The disruption wave expanded, flowing through the ship and out, to the entire harvester fleet. "We need to get back to the Shadowcaster," Ryan said. "This whole ship is going to fail soon." They hurried through the tunnels as systems around them began to shut down. Emergency lights flickered and died. The organic parts of the ship seemed to be in pain, contracting and shuddering. "Ryan, look," Nicole pointed ahead. Through a viewport, they could see the harvester fleet in disarray. Ships were drifting, colliding, or simply shutting down. "It worked better than we expected," Ryan said. "Their entire network is collapsing." They finally reached their entry point and the waiting Shadowcaster. As they prepared to leave, a final group of harvesters approached, moving slowly without their network connection but still dangerous. "Get to the ship," Ryan told Nicole. "I'll hold them off." "Not without you," she insisted, staying by his side. Together, they fought the last aliens, their pulse weapons depleting with each shot. Just as their weapons failed, they reached the Shadowcaster and sealed the hatch behind them. The command ship was beginning to break apart as they detached and moved away. All around them, the harvester fleet was in ruins, their technology useless without the central network to guide it. On Earth, cheers erupted in the command center as word spread of the aliens' collapse. Alexandra and Eric hugged each other, tears in their eyes. "We did it," Alexandra whispered. "We actually did it." In the days that followed, humanity began to rebuild. The remaining harvester ships were easy targets without their network. Some tried to flee, but Earth's defenders, using captured alien technology, pursued them relentlessly. 1 month after the battle, a memorial service was held for Captain Olivia Martinez and all those who had given their lives in the fight. Lieutenant Ryan Collins, now promoted to captain, stood beside Nicole Foster as they honored the fallen. "Her sacrifice made our mission possible," Ryan said. "Without her, we wouldn't be here today." As the ceremony ended, Alexandra Carter approached them with news. "We've decoded more of the harvester data. We know where they came from now. We know the location of their homeworld." Ryan looked up at the sky, thinking of Captain Martinez and all they had lost. "Then we should pay them a visit, make sure they never threaten another world again." Alexandra nodded. "Engineers have already begun adapting their technology for our use. We'll be ready to leave Earth orbit within a year." The broadcast that had been meant to warn Earth had done more than that. It had awakened humanity's darkest fury, showing a peaceful species that when threatened, they could fight with unmatched determination. The harvesters had thought Earth would be an easy target. Instead, they had created their own worst enemy. And now humanity was coming for them.